Welcome back guys, Ben here, and today we're checking out new games coming out in May 2026. This month feels a bit more focused compared to last time. We've got a handful of really big releases leading the way, but then a solid mix of interesting indie games, survival crafters, sandbox experiences, and a few narrative-driven titles that could end up being really strong if they land well. So rather than trying to cover absolutely everything releasing this month, these are the games I think that are actually worth knowing about and keeping on your radar. As always, all the games are PC titles coming to Steam, as we are predominantly a PC channel. The prices included where known at the time of recording, all in pound sterling unless otherwise stated. If you enjoy discovering new and interesting games, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, sit back, relax. For now, let's get straight into it. 007 First Light is a brand new James Bond game, but this isn't the polished, fully formed Bond we're used to. This is a much more raw, early version of the character right at the start of his career. It actually makes this way more interesting because instead of stepping into an already established spy, we're seeing how Bond becomes Bond, with more focus on mistakes, learning on the job, and building up that reputation over time. What makes this one really stand out though is the team behind it. This is being developed by IO Interactive, the same studio behind Hitman, so expect the same sandbox style approach where you've got multiple ways to tackle a single objective, whether that's stealth, disguises, gadgets, or going a bit more direct. On top of that, it looks like it's going all in on that premium blockbuster feel, strong visuals, iconic set pieces, and it's fully licensed as well, so you've got things like Aston Martin, you've got Omega watches, even the Bond theme that's from Lana Del Rey called First Light, which should really help it capture that cinematic spy atmosphere. They managed to blend that Hitman style gameplay with the proper story-driven Bond experience. This could be one of the standout releases of the month. It's right at the top of my wish list. 007 First Light is releasing on the 27th of May and it's priced at £59.99. Directive 8020 is the next big narrative horror game from Supermassive Games, the team behind Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures anthology. This feels like a much bigger step up in scale compared to their previous games. This one is set in space and leans heavily into sci-fi horror with a strong focus on choice and consequence, where your decisions directly impact who lives and who dies, branching storylines and multiple endings. What we've seen so far is taking inspiration from things like The Thing and Dead Space, with a bit more tension around identity, paranoia, and not knowing who or what you can trust, which fits perfectly in that space setting. Supermassive have always been strong with cinematic storytelling, but if they can combine that with the more meaningful gameplay choices and a bit more depth than their previous titles, this could easily be one of the standout narrative games this month. Directive 8020 is releasing on the 12th of May, priced at £39.99 with a pre-purchase bonus upgrading you to the Digital Deluxe Edition for free. If you buy this later on, it'll be priced separately as a DLC. Forza Horizon 6 is taking the series to Japan this time around, specifically Tokyo, which honestly feels something fans have been asking for years. It is also set to be the biggest map the series has ever had, but more importantly, it sounds like it's going to be a lot more densely packed with more things to do rather than just being bigger for the sake of it. Expect more events, more activities, and more reasons to actually explore the world. You've still got the core Horizon formula here, open world racing, loads of cars, events, and challenges, but the setting alone, especially with things like city racing, mountain roads, and drifting, could make this one feel fresh again. It's also launching day one on Game Pass, so a lot of people are going to jump into this straight away, and early previews have been really positive so far. Forza Horizon 6 releases on the 19th of May, priced at £59.99, with deluxe and premium editions available, including early access from the 15th of May. Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core is taking the co-op mining chaos of the original game and turning it into a roguelite, which is a really interesting direction for the series. Instead of longer missions with persistent upgrades, you're starting each run with basic gear and building your loadout as you go, picking up random upgrades, abilities, and weapons during each run. I've actually had the chance to play this already with the recent playtest and I really enjoyed it. It feels like a natural evolution of the formula, and if they get the progression loop right, this could be one of those really addictive just one more run type games, especially with friends. Also got a video up on the channel if you want to see some gameplay and first impressions of it in action. Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core is releasing into early access on the 20th of May. There's no confirmed pricing just yet. Paralives is probably one of the most anticipated indie games in years, especially if you've been waiting for a proper alternative to The Sims. This is a life simulation game with a big focus on building, customization, and player freedom. And from everything they've shown so far, it looks like it's giving players way more control over things like house building and character interactions. There's a lot of hype around this one, so it'll be interesting to see how much content there is at launch, but even in early access, this could be a big moment for the genre and something to really compete with The Sims alongside Inzoi that released last year as well. Paralives is releasing into early access on the 25th of May. There's no confirmed pricing just yet. Those are the main 5 games I want to highlight this month, but there are still plenty of other releases worth keeping on your radar, so let's run through some honourable mentions in date order. Motorslice is one that really stood out during the recent Steam Next Fest, even making it into the top 50 demos, and it's easy to see why. It's a fast-paced, visually striking action game with a really unique art style and fluid movement, where you're slicing through enemies and chaining together attacks in a really satisfying way. This feels like one of those games that could build a bit of a cult following if the full release delivers on the gameplay loop. Motorslice is releasing on the 5th of May with a demo available on Steam right now. Mixtape is a much more narrative-driven experience compared to some of the other games this month, focusing on a coming-of-age story with a strong emphasis on music, memories, and atmosphere. It's got a really distinctive visual style and presentation, and from what we've seen so far, it looks like it's blending storytelling with interactive moments tied to its soundtrack, which can make this one stand out if it all comes together. If you're into more story-focused games rather than systems-heavy gameplay, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Think Life is Strange, and even like the Directive 8020 and things like that, but without the horror elements. Mixtape is releasing on the 7th of May. Besmirch is a really interesting one. It blends farming and survival mechanics with a much darker horror-inspired tone. You're building up your land and managing resources, but there's this constant underlying tension with a focus on melee combat, gore, and a pretty unsettling atmosphere throughout, while you try to keep hold of your faith and explore as much as you can during the day and hide in your house at night. The people of Besmirch pass judgment by omens as much as deeds, and their blessings turn to curses when hunger rises. So to stay in their good graces, you must walk carefully between superstition, devotion, and the secrets they refuse to share. With their perception poisoned by desperation, you must prove you are worth more alive than banished. This is coming from a very small development team, but visually and conceptually it stands out quite a bit, especially if you're into games that mix cozy systems with something a bit more twisted. Also absolutely love the art style here and just how different and odd it looks, all part of the unnerving charm, I'm sure. Besmirch is releasing on the 11th of May with a demo available and is expected to be around that $10 to $15 price point. Saint of Chains is one I actually played during the recent Steam Next Fest, and it really stood out to me. It's a first-person horror experience with a heavy focus on brutal melee combat, giving off strong condemned criminal origins energy, where every fight feels close, aggressive, and pretty unforgiving. There's also some puzzle elements mixed in, but the main draw here is that raw, grounded combat and the atmosphere it builds around it in this pixely, PlayStation era-esque visual setting as well. If you're into darker, more intense horror games, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Saint of Chains is releasing on the 12th of May, with a demo available on Steam at the time of recording. Darklight Survivor is taking the Survivor-like formula and blending it with both top-down and third-person perspectives, which is a pretty interesting twist on the genre, and you can choose which one you want to use. You've got multiple characters, weapons, and roguelite upgrades to work through, and from what I've played previously, there's a decent amount of depth here already. Multiple characters, upgrades, weapons, and enemy variety as well. Feels like one of those games that could be easy to jump into, but has enough going on to keep you experimenting with different builds and playstyles over time. Darklight Survivor is releasing on the 14th of May, and there is a demo currently available on Steam. SpaceCraft is a space-based survival and building game that I've actually had a chance to play already, and I did enjoy my time with it, but I'm definitely curious to see how this one lands at full release. It's got that No Man's Sky style of seamless travel from space down to the planet's surface, but it's a lot more stripped back and focused with a heavier emphasis on mining, resource gathering, and eventually automation as you build things out. There's also a bit of progression hook here where you're essentially trying to pay off a capitalist debt tied to your ship, which gives you a clear goal as you expand and optimize what you're building. Performance was solid in the demo and the roadmap looks promising, and it feels like one that could evolve quite a bit over time depending on how they build on those systems. I'm just not sure if it's trying to go more of a No Man's Sky route or a bit more of a satisfactory route. I've got a video up on the channel as well if you want to see some of the gameplay and first impressions. SpaceCraft is releasing on the 20th of May and there's a demo on Steam you can check out as well. Lunar Abyss is another one I've played during the recent Steam Next Fest, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. It's a fast-paced, first-person sci-fi shooter with a really strong art style and some seriously striking visual design. It almost feels like a first-person indie take on something like Returnal or that Saros that just came out, with that mix of movement, bullet hell style combat, and this mysterious world that you're gradually uncovering as you go. The environments and overall presentation really stand out here, and it's one of those games that just feels good to play moment to moment as well. There's a demo available for this one, which I'd definitely recommend checking out if you like your shooters with a little bit more style and intensity behind them. Lunar Abyss is releasing on the 21st of May. Zero Parades for Dead Spies is getting a lot of comparisons to Disco Elysium, and that's because it's essentially a spiritual successor. It's got the same art style, similar structure, the same idea of your thoughts and emotions almost acting as characters in your head, influencing your decisions and how the story plays out. For all intents and purposes, this is about as close as you're going to get to a Disco Elysium 2, just with a different story and setting. And it's coming from the same studio, Zaum, who put out Disco Elysium. That studio has a bit of a background turmoil and a bit too much to go over in this video here, so I'm amazed we're seeing another game of this ilk at all, to be honest with you. I had a chance to play this too, and I did enjoy it, but it's definitely not going to be for everyone. Very dialogue heavy, very narrative driven, and much slower paced compared to most games on this list. That said, Disco Elysium sits at around a 91 on Metacritic, so if they can even get close to that level of writing and storytelling that they were praised and known for before, this could be a very strong narrative RPG. There's a demo available as well, and you can try it out for yourself and see if it clicks. Zero Parades for Dead Spies is releasing on the 21st of May, priced at around $39.99. Romestead is another survival and management focused game, but this one leans more into building up your own settlement and managing your resources over time. You're gathering materials, expanding your base, and trying to create something that can sustain itself with a familiar loop of progression and optimization. If you enjoy slower, more methodical survival games, but you're gradually building something up over time, this one could be worth keeping an eye on. Romestead is releasing on the 26th of May. Stonemachia is a really unique one visually, and it's got this chess piece style aesthetic, but blends that with more action-focused, lightly Souls-like inspired combat. You're moving through these stylized environments, taking on enemies, and progressing through a world that feels quite different from anything else on this list. One of those games that stands out immediately just from how it looks and seeing the chess pieces as enemies and how you play as well. And if the gameplay backs that up, this could be a really interesting indie release to keep an eye on. Stonemachia is releasing on the 26th of May with a demo available on Steam right now. Starminer is a sandbox space sim where you're designing and building out your own interstellar mining fleet focused heavily on systems, efficiency, and fully simulated physics. You're harvesting resources from asteroid fields, expanding your operations and optimizing your ships piece by piece, balancing things like power, weight, and structure depending on how you want your fleet to function. What's interesting here is that it's not really a traditional survival game. You're not exploring planets or leaving your ship. It's much more about managing your fleet, building out stations, and scaling your operation over time. There's also an alien threat tied into progression, where the more you expand and mine, the more attention you attract, eventually forcing you to defend your fleet with warships and defensive systems that you've designed yourself. If you're into more complex systems-driven space games where you can experiment, optimize, and build things your own way, this could be one to keep an eye on. Starminer is releasing into early access on the 27th of May. There's no confirmed price just yet. And just a really quick mention for a couple of games that were actually in last month's video, but they got delayed and are now finally releasing. Outbound is coming out on the 14th of May, and Will Follow the Light is releasing on the 7th of May. World of the Abyss has been delayed until the end of June apparently, but that's just a placeholder date. And the same for Sinking Eternity, that's been moved into Q2, so that should be here by the end of June as well, but we'll have to see. For Outbound and Will Follow the Light, both of those had demos available previously, and those are still up at the time of recording, and they already had a bit of momentum behind them. So if they were on your radar last month, they're now finally landing during this month. One more worth mentioning is Blades of Fire, which originally released in 2025 as an Epic exclusive, and that's now finally making its way to Steam on the 14th of May. Had a bit of a mixed reception at launch, but it's coming with a big 2.0 update, adding improvements and new content, so this could be a good second chance for the game and a time to check it out if you didn't pick it up on Epic last year. If you were interested before but you held off, this might be the best time to jump in and take another look. No price for this one, but it is $49.99 still on the Epic Games Store, so I presume it'll come to Steam and it might have a little launch discount to celebrate its arrival. This is another quick one worth mentioning, especially if you're into survival crafting games, is Conan Exiles Enhanced. This is a completely free upgrade launching on May 5th, bringing the game over to Unreal Engine 5 with a massive visual overhaul, improved performance, and a bunch of quality of life updates. One of the bigger changes here is that the two main maps are now merged into a single experience, so you can move between them without starting over, which is a pretty big upgrade for long-term players. We've also got improvements to building and crafting, a revamped UI, better mod support, and overall just a much more modern version of the game. I'm a big fan of Dune Awakening, which is being made by the same developers Funcom, so it's nice to see them going back and giving Conan Exiles this kind of refresh. I'm tempted myself to jump into this. If you already own the game on Steam, this is a completely free update. You'll just be able to update it on May 5th and jump straight in. That's everything coming in May 2026 that I think is worth keeping on your radar. This month feels a bit more curated compared to last time, fewer games overall, but a stronger mix of bigger releases and some really interesting indie titles that can end up being surprise hits. For me personally, Deep Rock Galactic Rogue Core is definitely one I'll be jumping into, and I'm interested to see how Paralives lands when it hits early access as well. Very excited to be checking out 007 First Light and Forza Horizon 6 as well. Those are big personal ones that I've had on my wish list for a while, and they're going to be keeping me busy, I'm sure. Let me know in the comments which games you're looking forward to the most, and if there's anything coming this month that I missed or that you think should be on the list. Like I said, I had to cull quite a few. We had like 25-30 titles on here, and I tried to put a bit more focus on the ones that were really standing out to me rather than just listing the games, because anyone can go onto Steam's like coming up list and have a little browse on there. I want to try and bring and surface some of the best ones for you, so I hope that was helpful for you. And if you enjoy these monthly roundups, make sure you're subscribed, because I do one of these every month along with demos, first impressions and full playthroughs, some of the most interesting new releases, big or small. We're also getting very close to 10,000 subscribers now, which is honestly just incredible and mind-blowing. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, drop a comment below for the algorithm. It is much appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.